Hi.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Good. How are
Good.
you?
How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. It's so nice to see both of you here. Um, where are you guys right now? Are you in Belize?
Yes, we're in Belmopan.
Nice. Cool. Well, I'm just going to give a short introduction and then we'll hop right into it. Just want to make sure, is my sound okay? All good?
You sound
Yep.
great.
Awesome. All right, well, welcome everybody to our IG Live with Heritage Education Network Belize. My name is Jacqueline Yost and I'm the founder of Ecomadic. For those of you who don't know, Ecomadic is a platform that connects sustainably minded travelers with responsible businesses and experiences. I connected with Heritage Education Network Belize as we both spoke at the Travel Unity Summit. I have loved getting to know the faces behind the organization since. Heritage Network Education Belize, or Heritage Education Network Belize, sorry, is a nonprofit organization led by a group of archaeologists, heritage professionals, tourism, and business industry leaders who work to support heritage education and the sustainable development of tourism and creative businesses by offering online courses, educational resources, consultation, community engagement, and capacity building projects. They aim to position local communities as influential and resilient heritage stakeholders. So without further ado, I can now pass the mic off to Rebecca Friedel and April Martinez. Why don't you guys start out by giving a brief introduction to Heritage Education Network Belize and how it all began?
Well, thank you very much for that lovely
Yes.
introduction, and thank you for having us here, Jacqueline and Ecomatic. So, Miss Martinez, April, and I, Rebecca, we are two of the co-directors of Heritage Education Network Belize. The other two are Celia Batty and Miss Ella Bakeshi, and she is in Hungary, all the way across the world. But the other three of us are in Belize. So we started Heritage Education Network Belize a little less than a year ago.
Yeah,
Right?
our anniversary is coming up in March. Like
Yeah.
right in the middle of COVID.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, that was sort of
Yeah.
the inspiration for starting it. So typically, archaeological projects in Belize are conducted by foreign institutions. That's a whole nother can of worms that we won't open up today. But they come in the summers and they do their excavations, and usually during those times, that's when we get to engage with the communities and present our new research and let heritage stakeholders know these are the new ideas, these are things, and a lot of the people who work on the archaeological projects are also tour guides, for example. So they really depend on that kind of information to keep their knowledge going and to give a good tour to tourists coming, right? And so we felt this need to keep that sort of knowledge production and access to knowledge alive. And we were really sort of worried, I suppose, about the diversity of culture that's really maintained through tourism industries sort of fizzling out during COVID, since tourism was going to fizzle out. So then we created the online platform to have these discussions and present data information, and it's just sort of grown from there.
Yes. Our dynamic has changed since we started. It's more embedded in anthropological information, not just archaeology, but heritage management, tourism, education,
Mental
wellness. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's gone from what we initially wanted. It was to be an information platform for anybody that was in the cultural heritage business. If you are a tour guide, if you are a small vendor on the roadside that depended on that traffic of tourism, we wanted to have a platform where they could figure out how to maintain their business during COVID, how they could reach out to local tourists so that we can continue, so they can continue to have that business stability. And that is why Heritage Education Network kind of just took off.
Yeah.
The four of us have our own different networks, and based on those different networks, yes, we're archaeologists, but Ella is stationed in the north in Orange Walk, where she has her connections there. Rebecca and Sylvia, they are stationed in the west, where they have their connections there. I have been all over the country doing field work. So we have like different strains of networks from all over the country and abroad, and that is how we have been able to come together and just create this beautiful baby chicken.
Yeah,
known as Hen.
Yeah, so we call it Hen because it just
Heritage
happens to
Education
be.
Network,
Yeah.
Belize. And then shout out to Sylvia, who actually, decided that we should have our chicken be our mascot, and that's kind of how
She loves chicken.
She loves chickens, so it just worked.
I just recently got my own chicken, so I'm joining the family.
Oh, wow. I love that. What a unique story. And it definitely has been an interesting time, especially launching during COVID. But I think now more than ever, we're able to kind of facilitate those conversations because people are looking to see how they can develop and grow coming out of COVID and operate in a way that it makes sense and that's sustainable. So kind of leading into the next question, since you work and have so many conversations within tourism related businesses, what challenges have you witnessed because of COVID?
Wow. Well, so one of the major ones I think that April sort of alluded to earlier is that a lot of these individuals and businesses that are reliant on tourism are really small, and most of them don't have an online presence. And of course, with the pandemic, everything went to online. And so that was something that we really wanted to try to help, like getting people on Facebook, or help building websites, or just basic marketing strategies. I think Ella did a whole live about how to use Canva, which is amazing. It was just an amazing source.
I love that. The best.
One of the biggest challenges with doing that and having COVID being this global pandemic that has basically halted the world is that a lot of these small businesses are in rural areas and they don't have that access to electricity, that access to internet. And so it went from just, okay, we need to build a Facebook presence or a website, but how do we actually connect with some of them because they don't have access to
even connect.
Yeah. So how do you get people to even be aware of that? And I guess that would lead to what we have been doing with you guys with the travel list. And we also had our heritage highlight, trying to highlight different small businesses that have to do with culture so that people can know and they're aware of them. So even though they might not have an online presence, we would try to market that for them so that people can at least know that they're there. And if you are living in that area, you can go and visit that museum or that vendor station. So yeah, that's been one of the roughest parts of this.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a sad time, but hopefully we can come out of this and educate people on why it's important to choose local, especially when we can start to travel again. So why do you guys believe that it is so important to support local? I know in the past, some of the conversations that we have had is in Belize that a lot of the typical tourist destinations are just found in the guidebooks. So going outside of that and kind of recommending these local places, like why do you think that, why would you recommend travelers to do that?
Can I take this one? Sure. So we really believe that the local populations, the local communities know the issues best. And so basically when you're shopping local, when you're a tourist, you're supporting local communities and giving them the power and the capital to make changes that they know are necessary, right? Whereas if you just go to another country and stay at a Hilton hotel and a big resort, you're giving that money right back to that big corporation instead of supporting the local community. But also, I think something that's at the heart of what we are is that it helps create and sustain cultural diversity, right? you're not going to get a culturally diverse experience at one of these huge corporation-run resorts. And so if we're supporting these locally produced cultural traditions through food or just going and watching a dance or some sort of experience, we're helping to sustain those things.
We've also learned that the best way to gain any kind of knowledge from where you're staying, the district that you're in, the village that you're in, the country that you're in, is to talk to the local people.
Yes.
One of the best experiences that we have had as archaeologists, and I can speak for all of us when I say that the workers that help us, like in the field school, they are from the local communities around, and they are the best teachers. You can't get that kind of knowledge and expertise at school, no matter which university you go to. And we've all had that experience. I am Belizean, and I still think that my best osteology school was from fieldwork in all of these rural areas. And the better people to teach you are the people that come from there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I completely agree. And at Ecomadic, we believe in supporting local and small businesses just because it does really help protect the environment. It's better for like local sustainability. Like you guys said, it's easier for the local people to kind of implement because they know how to sustain their local ecologies. Also, it helps to community development, preserves social and cultural landscapes, as well as keeps money within local economies. Pretty sure it's the UN that put out the statistic that only $5 of tourists spend out of 100 is usually what stays within a local economy if you aren't.
Wow.
So that puts it into perspective. It's super important to be spending your money as local as possible to support the destination and the place that you're in. So I kind of skipped in the beginning, but if you guys want to give like an overview of what Belize is like as a destination, because I think that would be really great for our listeners and our viewers out there, just to learn like what Belize is like as a destination and why people want to take their next trip and start planning one there.
Definitely want to come, right?
Yes.
So I think we were talking about this a bit earlier, but Belize is sort of a weird mixture of Caribbean vibes and Central American vibes, but also its own vibes. Yeah. So you're gonna get something unique no matter where you go in Belize. But even within Belize, it's so diverse. Yes. I think April can speak to this better than I can.
Well, I mean, I was telling the girls this morning that Belize is like 6 different countries disguised as one country because it doesn't matter where you are, there is going to be something different and unique about the district that you are visiting. And one of the I guess it's a pro and a con about Belize is that no matter how long your visit, you will always find something that you didn't get to do because it's so vast with diversity. One minute you are at the Keys and the next minute you are in a rainforest hiking. You can snorkel in the Barrier Reef and in the Big Blue Hole, but you can also swim in our rivers here, and we have sinkholes here, and we have all of these cave experiences and waterfalls. So all of these different bodies of water to do all sorts of activities. So, and then of course our favorite are the archaeological sites. You have to come and see,
which are a great combination of ecological sustainability, right? Because most of them are in forest reserves.
Yes.
And cultural heritage. Yes. So,
and you get to have, and each site has their own experience to get to. It doesn't matter if it's,
getting to,
getting
the adventure in and of itself.
Right. Like to go to San Antonio, you have to drive and take a ferry.
Yeah.
To go to Lamanai, you have to either take a boat or you can go on land. The boat one is faster, but then if you go on land, you get to see all of the various villages and communities along the way, and then if you take the boat ride, you get to see all the ecological experiences along the way. So you have options in these kinds of with these kinds of trips.
Mm-hmm.
So, and of course, everything that Belize is, and Becca and I said this a while ago, that Belize was ahead of its time when it came to eco-friendly and sustainability. We've been using that environment to attract tourists for a very, very long time, and I think that recently the world has kind of gotten, you know, they kind of came up and decided to do the same.
I made the joke that Belize is the hipster of travel sustainability.
We are. And there is something for every kind of tourist. If you are a backpack traveler, there's so many different things that you can do. If you are somebody that just wants to hang out at a resort and sit on the beach, there is so many things for you to do. You know, there is not just
horseback riding.
Yeah, there's not just one type of thing to do. You have the limit. There is no limitations. Yeah. If you want something, Belize has it.
Exactly.
Except McDonald's. I'm sorry, we don't do that.
No, yeah, we don't. I think that's one of the good things about
Yes,
Belize.
we don't have any franchise restaurants.
It doesn't let those big corporations really come in. No. So it really does try to support local inherently, right?
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Love to hear it. Well, if you hadn't convinced me already in our previous meetings, like shot this top of my destinations to go once we travel again. Yeah, and we did. I think we've said it a few times in here where we can kind of drop, but we did a collaboration where we did 10 suggestions of local eco-accommodations, socially responsible eateries, and ethical experiences in Belize. So those are something that our viewers out there can go to our website and kind of check out for when you're in that planning mode as well. So to my next question, now that we've kind of given an overview of what Belize has to offer, what are some of the issues that you've noticed that mass tourism has caused in Belize? And are there any initiatives kind of popping up to kind of support and ensure that things stay sustainable and implement sustainable tourism practices?
Well, one of the issues that we had discussed was the massive traffic of cruise ships, and Oceana is a huge advocate for, you know, sustainability in Belize, and you know, we've been able to kind of more or less, I want to say, compromise a little bit when it comes to massive cruise tours, but I wouldn't say that it's a problem in the sense of bringing tourists into Belize. It's just that you don't get to see everything that Belize has to offer through just a cruise ship experience, because Caribbean cruises, we know sometimes they just go to the beach and they hang out, and that's it that they can do for the day, whereas Belize is not just beaches. You know, if you want to do an archaeological site, the cruise tour is offered, but it's so rushed. You know, you don't get to experience that historical, that heritage information that well. You don't get to see anything on the way because you're rushing to get to the site. So the tourism experience itself, the tourist experience itself is kind of lost because you only have one day to do something.
Yeah, so, not even a whole day.
Yeah, like half a day, right? And so that is something that we see kind of being an issue for the experience of tourism, and then also kind of like leeching off of them seeing an archaeological site. Because of the mass amount of people that go to these sites, there is issues with conservation. You know, a lot of the times people ask, well, why is it that we don't get to see all of the archaeology that you do all the time in field school? And it's expensive to preserve these monuments and
to reconstruct them.
Yeah, and so to have them, for the ones that you can see and for the ones that are reconstructed, you know, that's a lot of funding. So when people go to these sites, and a massive crowd of people go to these sites, you know, there's a lot of issues with people climbing the buildings, and
where they're not supposed
to climb, and they destroy it because, you know, the monitoring is a little bit tricky with so much people going in and out of these sites. And so that's another.
Well, because the cruise ships will bring in like busloads of people, and they can't control that many tourists, and inevitably there are some kids that come with their parents, right, and they get into trouble.
Yeah.
But I actually went on a cruise once, and a couple years ago, and it stopped in Belize. I didn't go on any of the tours because I was coming to see my fiance. So, but I will say that every single person that I talked to about their experience said they loved Belize and they wanted to go back to spend more time because all of the Belizeans were so friendly. And I think that that also speaks to something that April said earlier, is that you should talk to the local people. First of all, they're very friendly and they want to get to know you, and they'll tell you what you should do and where the best food is. All sorts of things. And you sort of lose out on that experience if you're in this huge crowd of just tourists, right? So yeah.
Definitely. I think another issue that we discussed was the accommodating of international tourists. So oftentimes with the trafficking, you know, the population of tourists that come in, sometimes we don't have all of that accommodation for them, or sometimes we don't have what they are looking for in terms of experience because marketing is probably flawed in some kind of way, or sometimes a tourist wants to see something and then their local tour that they booked decides that they're not going to include adjacent communities in certain areas because they're probably bad for business, you know, that kind of stuff. So it kind of stems to what we're trying to say in terms of marketing and advertising local tourism and these local communities that honestly have built these areas that would eventually create that sustainability for mass tourism, but they're not seen because they are local, rural communities.
Unfortunately, yeah. But it definitely is all about education and connectivity, and that's what we are all on the mission, and one of our missions here is to connect people with those local businesses so that people can support. But yeah, it is an interesting topic, cruise ship tourism. I feel like you can look at it in positive ways and negative ways. But one of our content writers, she did write an article on ecotourism the other day, which I've also heard of being called hit and run tourism, where like you're only in a place for X amount of time, so you can only the top Instagram activities. But it definitely, I think being in the country and connecting with the locals and trying to explore outside of what you would normally do definitely helps you get a better feel for the place. So, so through Heritage Education Network Belize, what problems are you guys trying to solve? And so you can feel free to give some examples of the work that you do in here as well.
Too many problems. No. Well, so I guess we sort of hit on this in the beginning. Some of the major things that we wanted to address when we initially started, I think, is access to this, to heritage and knowledge of heritage, and maintaining that diversity that we see in Belize. And we didn't want to see it fizzle out because tourism stagnated because of COVID, right? So that was something that we really wanted to address, I suppose. And
I think that also the education that people, because at first we started off with providing the information for people that are in heritage, but then we kind of came to realize that there are a lot of Belizeans that don't know anything about, you know, sustainability of heritage and you know, the massive influx that we had. I think we had a live about the economy, that how COVID affected our economy, especially with tourism, and that is kind of why we kind of extended it, because we realized that the education bit of it was lost throughout various communities and not just heritage and tourism businesses. So we were trying to,
well, and heritage is related to everything, honestly. Culture, we've found that even, yes, we as archaeologists and anthropologists, obviously we think culture is related to everything, but we also have seen that other community or other organizations see it too. And so we've been able to make connections with foster homes and tutoring companies and so many different things.
Yeah.
It's been an adventure.
We're trying to maintain that accessibility to heritage knowledge, and not just for tourism stakeholders, but for anyone that is involved in culture, which is everyone.
Everyone, essentially.
Right? And the way we've done this are by live discussions that we've had on Henby, the Garifuna Cultural Project.
Yes.
We've done our Heritage Highlight. This with you, Ecomadic, we're trying so hard
Yes.
to keep everyone engaged. And one of our my biggest problems was maintaining social media. We realized that once everything shut down, everyone would just be on their phones constantly and on their computers constantly and on their social media pages. So we quickly realized that we had to get with the times, you know, and that is how we were able to communicate.
Shout out to Ella.
Yeah, shout out to Ella for just doing all of her platforms, because we didn't realize how large we were going to get in such a small time. And so we were able to kind of reach out to a lot of people through it's one of the easier ways to reach out to our followers and to people that want to support us through our different networks. So that is something that we definitely did. Like I mentioned before, we all have different networks for our own, and then kind of combining it, we just created like this superpower of networks, and everyone
and
that
we get amazing volunteers too.
Shout out to all our family members watching.
Yes. So I think that our network just continues to grow, and that's one of the things that we wanted to address, right? Is making these connections, because we see the connections, but not everyone can see them, and so I think that was a huge thing for us. And then also going back to our archaeological projects, Sylvia and I, one of the other co-directors, had established what we call our sister organization, which is called Fahina Archaeology Outreach, and so that we established that back in 2013, 2014 maybe. But that was really focused on helping these archaeological projects be more engaged with the local communities. And so that's something that we've started taking up as Henby. And so we've been working with a few archaeologists to try to beef up their community outreach and help them get the best out of it and give the best. Because they have so many other things that they're worried about, and we can specialize in that, right? So that's something.
I mean, as archaeologists, we also know that community engagement is important, but it only extends so far as the people that work with us and maybe their family members. But if you want to get an entire community involved, you have to be able to reach out. And a lot of our archaeological sites are just submerged right smack in the middle of some of these communities, and they just come around and see what the archaeologists are doing, and then they leave. So we are trying our best to provide assistance with these projects through consultations,
and get them more engaged with archaeology, because ultimately it is the history of their country, right?
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, and congratulations on your growth and everything that you guys have been able to get involved in over here.
Thank you.
It's so amazing, and I can't wait to continue to follow your journey and see where you go. So to wrap up, we only had a few more questions. So moving on and forward, when people are traveling to Belize, how do you think that travelers can travel sustainably? I know we touched on local before, but if you have any extra tips, that'd be great. And then anything that you recommend to people that they cannot miss, and like, what is your favorite thing to do when you're being a tourist in your own country?
Yeah. Well, like I kind of mentioned before, Belize was ahead of its time when it came to sustainability. But one of the better ways to travel in Belize sustainably, which is not the best way to travel right now because of COVID, but pre-COVID, one of the better ways to get around was through local public transportations. A lot of tourists enjoyed being on the local bus because you get to see the cultural activity around you, which is another experience within itself, even as a Belizean.
Yes.
So
sometimes there are chickens on the bus,
yes,
which we don't mind.
No, people are sitting in the middle of that, even there's no seat available. But the experience itself, you know, now you kind of have to hire a local guide to help you around so that you can travel safely. And they themselves have their own sustainable protocols so that you can follow along. And of course, you can eat at local restaurants. You can buy locally made goods.
Not even restaurants, I would say, like street vendors. There's so much good food just on the side of the street.
The best, yeah, like Ella said, Orange Rock Tacos. Every block has a little stand, and they're the best places to get food. They're the places that are going to probably make their foods at home, right? With the locally grown and locally seasoned, and they're the ones that are going to support the local tortilla vendor. They're the ones that are going to support all the Belizean products to make that food. So if you support them, you support the economy. It all goes around. So you have locally owned hotels that you can stay at, which right now with COVID, it's a little bit tricky staying at a hostel in a village because of different protocols. But again, those are the places that you get the full-blown cultural experience. And of course, like we mentioned before, talk to the local people. They will tell you all of the spots that...
You can even send us a message, I think. We would have a lot of recommendations for people. And shout out to all of the articles that Ecomadic has, that article, right?
Yes.
And we have a number of articles about places and things to do, right? Local advice, I suppose.
Well, one of my favorite places as just a regular person to go to is our zoo. I love our zoo.
Yes.
And I don't know if they made our top 10, but they are one of the most eco-friendly places in Belize from before, because all of the animals are placed in their own natural habitat. So they're not placed in a cage, or they're not placed in anything cemented. Like, everything is natural for that animal. That is their habitat, that is their environment.
And they're all being rehabilitated,
yes,
I think, right?
Yes, they're all saved and stuff, and they're all from here. You know, the animals that come from outside are animals that are native to Central America, and maybe one of their people have saved, and now they're being rehabilitated in the zoo. So we don't have lions, we don't have giraffes, you know, we don't have anything that is not from here. It's all here. And the nature walk is just wonderful and beautiful, and they have all of these Creole signs that tell you not to litter and not to, you know. So it's
and I think their souvenir shop is all like locally made souvenirs.
Yeah. And I've been going to that zoo since I was little, and it hasn't changed. It's amazing. Yeah. It's wonderful. So those are places that have maintained that sustainability. But the places that you're not going to hear of are, you know, the rural areas that have also maintained that eco-sustainability, that eco-friendly environment. And those are the ones that we try to promote as HENB, because you're not going to be able to find them on Lonely Planet or on TripAdvisor, you know. So those are the ones that we try our best to support. And of course, we also say to do your research, but you can do your research through us. You can do your research through Ecomadic, so that you can get a feel, but you also have to leave room for adventure and surprise. Yes. I often realize
Belize is good at that.
Yeah, because people tend to over research and over plan, and then, you know, maybe their bus broke down, or maybe they're not able
to be ready for Belize time. Belize time is a real thing.
Yeah, maybe their guide is late, and it's not because they want to be late, but maybe their phone broke down.
Yeah.
Or all of these small little surprises
that you're construction on the highway.
There's construction on the highway, so now you have to wait like 30 minutes to get to your destination. So
there's really only one major highway to get to any major part of the country.
I think the best advice for any traveler to come to Belize, just chill. Just Go with the flow. Go with the flow. Make sure that you plan ahead. So like you're gonna book your hotel for 3. You're gonna get there at 4. Just chill, relax.
Yeah.
Oh,
Have some rum.
Yeah. And just chill.
Something that I think that people should definitely do is go up to the Mountain Pine Ridge. And if you can, stay there and look at the stars at night on a clear night. I swear I've never seen so many stars before in my life. I loved it so much. I went to shout out to Marty's farm. They have tree houses.
cool.
And Miriam Martz, they're Martinez. They're an amazing couple. He built the tree houses by hand. Anyway, so I stayed in this tree house, but before I went into the tree house at night, I looked up into the sky and I about fell over. My fiance was like, "Come on, let's just go to bed." No, look at all of the stars. But
I also like Coxcomb Basin in the south. It's so beautiful. You get to see all of the natural wildlife. It's a sanctuary. And there's so many different areas to visit along the way. The Maya Center, where the ladies make their own clothing and they can teach you how to sew. There's so many different places to go. I like the Bokawina trail that's also in the south because they have a little bit of everything. So they have the Maya archaeological site Mayflower right in their compound. They have a little eco trail, which is like 4 different waterfalls, 4 different trails. The Antelope Trail is murder. If you are not prepared for that trail, it's going to hit you. It's beautiful though. Once you get up there, it's absolutely gorgeous. And they've expanded as well so that was like for local tourism, and then they expanded when they started to get more and more popular with international tourism. You can do waterfall rappelling, which unless you are extremely fit, don't do it. You can also do zip lining. You know, that place has something for everybody. That is what I love about that particular area as well. That's one of my.
I would say that a secret, if you want to get access to the beach and beautiful beaches, and you also want to access local culture, but you don't want to deal with so many different tourists, go to Hopkins.
Yes.
It's amazing. They have amazing Garifuna culture, and you're gonna get that beach, but culture as well.
Yes.
It's you know, not to knock on the Keys or anything, but there's a lot of tourists that go to the Keys.
Yeah.
So
Hopkins is its own little private place of heaven where you can actually get a beach to yourself if you want to. And that's what makes it special from other places. I mean, of course, again, not to knock on Placencia or any of those places either, but if you want to experience that relaxation vibe, you know, you go to Hopkins where you can vibe with the locals, vibe alone if you feel like. It's like we said, there's a little bit of everything. If you want to go to a key that is fast-paced, San Pedro. If you want to go to a key that is slow-paced and chill, Key Cocker. You know, there's something for every and anybody.
Wow, I'm going to have to rewatch this and take notes.
Just ask us if you have questions. We're here.
It all sounds so incredible, authentic, adventurous, like relaxing. Oh, I can't wait to make it there one day. So thank you guys so much. That was all the questions that I had. But I really appreciated you guys sharing so much about Heritage Education Network Belize and the amazing work that you guys are doing and your mission. Before I close this chat, is there anything else that you would like to share?
Go to Henry.
Try Padil. If you come to Belize, you have to have Padil. It's not just a Belizean thing, but it's amazing.
It is. Honestly,
it's a meat. It's beef or
no, it's
pork.
Pig. It's pig that is cooked underground with leaves, like banana leaves.
And it has specific spices like achiote and
allspice.
Allspice, yeah. I think it has origins in traditional Maya cooking. The name Pabil comes from Pib, which is an underground cooking oven. But anyway, so they cook it for, I don't know, a day or 2 days underground, and they bring it out, and the meat falls off the bone, and you put it in tortillas and make tacos. Oh, it's so good.
And of course, that is just one of our many cuisines. And I noticed that a lot of
But if you're vegetarian, there are so many also amazing options, right?
yeah, for sure.
There are the best at rice and beans. Like you can't get any better rice and beans.
No, you can't.
No,
You really
than
can't. I
Indonesian
don't care
rice.
where you say. You really can't.
And the avocado is here. Oh, mangoes. Oh my gosh.
Also, you know, we're such a melting pot of not just culture, but different people that have migrated throughout our history here in Belize.
Yes.
And so you're not just getting Belizean cuisine. You can find Pakistani food here in Belize.
Indian food.
You can find Indian food in Belize. You can find Salvadoran food in Belize.
So many.
You have
Pupuserias.
yeah, pupuserias are great.
Yes.
I love a good pupusa.
Pupusa is Salvadorian.
Yeah. So if you are thinking about it, we have it.
Oh,
It's here.
Come visit.
Come visit us.
That's what
We'll
we
take you out.
definitely have to make it there. All right, well, don't forget to check out our newest articles. We did a couple of collabs. They're live on the Sustainable Seed, Ecomadic's online travel magazine. We cover a range of topics, including how Heritage Education Network Belize is working to preserve Belizean culture through archaeology and tourism, why it is so important to support local businesses, written by our wonderful content writer, Juliana, and 10 local recommendations of eco-accommodations, socially responsible eateries, and ethical experiences in Belize. So, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that you can go to heritagebelize.org for more information. We have a lot more on there. We have our Facebook page or Instagram. And of course, if you want to hear from us all the time, you can subscribe and be part of our newsletter community, where you get to find out all of the wonderful and amazing things that we're up to for the month.
Yes, highly recommend following all of that. So yes, please check out Heritage Education Network Belize and Ecomadic if you haven't already.
Yes.
So thank you again, and thank you to all our viewers out there. We'll see you next time.
Thanks,
Bye. Thank you, Jacqueline.
Have a good day.